do we really wanna, make another video talking about the Detroit Red Wings and the young guys who ended up cracking the roster? Hell yeah, baby. Because a few days ago, we spoke about Justin Hall, Erik Gustafsson, how those guys ended up on waivers, and how those two waiver situations essentially confirmed 3 young guys making the Red Wings roster. Emmitt Finnie, Michael Brandsegg-Nygard, and Axel Sandin-Pellikka. The reason the waiving of Hall and Gustafsson pretty much confirmed that is because it was already kind of common knowledge that the Red Wings, they had 1 extra roster spot for a young guy available up for grabs towards the end of the preseason, but guess what? You've got 1 spot, then you waive 2 guys that we thought would be main players on the roster in Hall and Gustafsson, which gives you 3 spots. Essentially saying that, yeah, Finnie, Brandsegg-Nygard, ASP, you guys have earned your spot. And that was confirmed yesterday when the Detroit Red Wings finalized their roster, which did include those 3 names. By the way, we're going to have to start using some nicknames here because I have seen some popular ones circulating online, not necessarily for Finnie, but for Brandsegg-Nygard and Axel Sandin-Pellikka. Everybody's calling them the hyphen boys, or the hyphen kids, hyphen guys, something with the hyphens because their names, Sandin-Pellikka, Brandsegg-Nygard. There are some hyphens in there. So the hyphen boys, I think, pretty good way to label these guys. And then Emmitt Finnie, just the way that he's been able to showcase and impress in the preseason. Absolutely outstanding stuff from the 7th round pick. By the way, did you know that Finnie was taken in the 7th round? Did I mention that already? Yeah, no, I'm being sarcastic. We mention it all the time because it's crazy. Like, really, when does a 7th round pick ever make the NHL 2 years out? And in a position like Finnie is. You want to talk about positions? Well, let's head over onto Helene St. James's article from yesterday. This was on the Detroit Free Press, and it talks about how Emmitt Finnie is being placed in the first line. Now, things might actually change by the time Tuesday's practice comes and goes, but we're just going off of what was talked about yesterday. Take a look at this. At practice on Monday, Brandsegg-Nygard skated on a line with Andrew Kopp and JT Compher. And Emmitt Finnie skated with Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond. Axel Sandin-Pellikka was mostly partnered with Albert Johansson. So, if that is the way things are going to go, my biggest question here is, hey, how much does Brandsegg-Nygard's point production decline if he's playing with Kopp and Compher? Okay, we're not gonna think too hard about that. Yes, he led the preseason in points and goals, but nobody was really expecting Brandsegg-Nygard to be the top point producer in the NHL for an entire season, right? At the very least, Emmitt Finnie bringing his A game and being a roster tool alongside of Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond, that is probably the biggest surprise out of all of these NHL training camps so far. I'd say that there were a few big ones, but between Braden Coots in Vancouver actually making the team from being drafted 15th overall to Emmitt Finnie becoming a first liner, it's hard to top that. Kind of coincidental that I cheer for both of those teams, but still. Axel Sandin-Pellikka partnering up with Albert Johansson is great. It leaves some of the other top defensemen room to navigate by themselves. Also, Albert Johansson just happens to be very strong too, so, we've all been pretty big fans of how he's played towards the end of last season especially, so if Axel Sandin-Pellikka and Johansson can get that Swedish offensive connection going, we could be in for some pretty good stuff here. Sandin-Pellikka loves to rip the puck towards the net, too. The other lines from yesterday's practice had Marco Kasper with DeBrincat and Kane, and Michael Rasmussen with Soderblom and Mason Appleton. On defense, Seider was with Sherratt, and Edvinsson was with either Jacob Bernard-Docker or Travis Hamonic. So this, of course, is a really nice way to just get ourselves introduced to the way the Red Wings are shaping up. Extra players included James Van Riemsdyk and Jonathan Berggren. They weren't necessarily rotating in the same lines, they were just kind of floating around, so we'll see whether or not that carries into today's practice and then into the rest of the regular season. But you gotta think about it like this, man. Finnie, Brandsegg-Nygard, and Sandin-Pellikka, they all made the team. They dethroned some veteran roster spot players in Gustafsson and Hall, and say what you want about whether or not those guys deserved it, the fact that Yzerplan was willing to make the choice to say, yeah, on paper, objectively, these veteran guys deserve the spot more because they're older and we're paying them more money, so if we send them down, it's kind of a slight against our scouting ability and what we have as a team. But then when you think about it, like in terms of the actual game played, it's like, yeah, well, no, we're not going to go there. Justin Hall has had much better days, and even then, he was never really great. But then the other guys, the rookies, they were so good and so undeniable that Steve Yzerplan had no choice but to make this decision to keep them up. And the best part is, you can even say that this isn't the end of it all. Let's head over and talk about the Detroit Red Wings subreddit, because there was a very interesting comment thread that spoke about how the best part is that there's more to come. Nate Danielson could be on the roster in the near future. He was getting some high praise from Todd McClellan all camp. It's almost guaranteed that we see him at some point. A Potts IRHC went out there and said, I agree. I think if Finnie starts to slip or underperforms the first 10 games, I think that's the limit before burning a year off the contract, we'll see Danielson come up. But then another reply says, I think the possibility of Danielson coming up isn't even contingent on Emmitt Finnie underperforming. I genuinely believe we'll see a 4-rookie roster sooner rather than later. This is exactly how Double Jack feels as well. Danielson will be playing center most likely, so it's the guys like Comfer, Kopp, and Rasmussen that have to look over their shoulder at what's coming. And furthermore to that point, another comment says only Michael Brandsegg-Nygard's contract is slide eligible. I think most everyone else's contract slid last year, so the 9 games thing, who really knows if that's going to be a factor in the way we see the Red Wings develop. But as we continue into the months of November and January, this is where we're really going to have to start paying attention to these younger guys. Because it is true, the NHL is a grind. I don't think anybody's expecting it to be easy for them to be 82-game NHL players right off the hop. Injuries will play a factor, and fatigue as well. But this is where we see the first steps of their development truly take place at the top level. When you have an explosion of an offensive year, or such a strong rookie campaign that it allows you to be a top guy instantly, like a Raymond or a Seider, then that's fantastic. But not everybody can do that. The point is, though, the Red Wings have 3 guys, 3 potential opportunities to do the same thing there, and they're all very well deserving of it. If one of them or 2 of them falters, then there's going to be more years to come to see them develop. This is not the end game for Emmitt Finnie, Sandin-Pellikka, and Brandsegg-Nygard. It is literally the beginning. And now we're sitting here in a new era of Red Wings hockey where young guys at 20 years old are good enough to be making the Detroit Red Wings and sending veterans down there on waivers. So, yeah, props to Steve Yzerplan. Firstly, for drafting these guys. Secondly, for helping them develop. And thirdly, for keeping them up on the team. Especially since they deserved it. With that in mind, if you liked this video, you can click that like button down there. If you did not like it, then hey, the dislike button's down there for you as well. Comments help out with the algorithm, so I'd really appreciate it if you got involved and let me know your thoughts as to what you thought about these rookies making the team. And also, what are your thoughts on Nate Danielson and how much he's going to get involved here as well. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.